So hello and welcome. Today we're going to continue our conversation in our shape to form and contour line unit by talking about a new word, construction lines. And we're going to draw together on some plain white computer paper like we have done in the past. So please go ahead and get your supplies. You will need a blank piece of paper and a pencil. I want you to use the Ticonderoga pencil. I'm using the Blick Studio 4B because I wanted to show up really bright and dark on the camera. But please make sure you're using a Ticonderoga pencil. We are going to be drawing and constructing the hand flat today. Over the course of the next few lessons, we're going to do the flat hand today, the bent finger in our next lesson, and the closed fist in our final lesson on hands. As you know, where are we coming from? What's our frame of mind when we enter this? Well, we just finished this conversation where we talked about how we change a 2D shape into a 3D form. And we know that if we can construct, right, draw in all of these different forms and add value to create this kind of shading, thinking about our light source, if we can shade these objects like a sphere, cube, cylinder, pyramid, or cone, everything in the world is made up of these forms, right? So I'm going to illustrate that to you today by drawing the hand. Our final sheet when we're done will look something like this. And I want you to draw along with me and submit your final image, your final drawing to our Schoology page. So go ahead right now, get out a new piece of printer paper, computer paper, blank paper. Do not use the drawing paper that I've included in your kit. Use the computer paper. It's thin. It measures 8.5 by 11. And then you will need a pencil. I'm going to be using the Blick Studio 4B pencil because it's darker and it's going to show up better on the camera for you. But I would like you to use your yellow pencil, the Ticonderoga number 2. Okay, we're going to save these for when we talk more about value. All right, so let's get started. On your paper, go ahead and title the sheet number 2. This is notes sheet number 2. And we're going to call this the flat hand. And this is the word that we're going to be using, construction lines. We are construction workers today. We are going to learn how to construct the form. We're not going to worry about shading anymore right now. We're not going to worry about capturing all the intricate details of our hand. We are drawing the construction, right? So please draw actual size. I'm going to draw my drawing about this big. I'm not tracing anything. I'm building as we go. And at the end, you should have a really good understanding of the different aspects of the construction of the hand. All right, so let's get started. Before we do this really big, I'm gonna draw really quick down here like I did for you when we were drawing like these forms, right? I did them small first just to give you the gist, and then we drew it big together. So just watch for a second. If you don't have paper and your pencil set up, pause the video, go get your supplies because you are drawing along with me. And you are submitting a photo of this work at the end. Okay, so if you don't sit here and just watch, go get your stuff. All right, but watch this part. So as you know, if we look at our hand, right, we know that we have our palm of our hand and then we have 5 fingers. We have 4 fingers up top and then we have our thumb on the side. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the anatomy of the hand a little bit, but before I do that, I want to point out this shape, right, of our palm. And we might think of our hand, we balled up into a fist like a ball, but when we flatten it out, we have this sort of square shape. I'm going to try and draw on my hand. Don't do this, right? Just look for a second. My pencil's really dark, so it might work. So I have this kind of a little bit of a curved line here, right? It sort of goes straight here, straight there. You see that? And then it cuts up down here. This is a little bit tapered as it gets thinner down here. I then have, do you see this whole flap here? That houses my thumb. My thumb is here and it's inside, right? This is like a big triangle piece that comes off the side, right? The first thing what we're doing right now is we're observing, we're not drawing, right? We're observing. Got this triangle piece that comes off the side. And then all of my fingers are cylinders, right? They have that round base and they go up and they taper towards the end, right? We're gonna talk about our joints tomorrow in our next lesson. But I really want you to be able to see these forms. If I were to take my hand like this and I chopped up all my fingers, you would be able to see the thickness of my hand, right? And I can compare it, when it's flat like this, I can compare it to a cube that's been like squished and stretched, right? It's like a rectangular form that way. So I'm going to draw that quickly down here, and we're going to think about the structure and then build it bigger. So if I take this, I've got like a little bit of a curved shape. It's going to come down and taper, right? And I'm going to draw this in dimensions. I'm going to take that line, copy, paste it, and bring it up to the right. Getting that. Right, our arm is another cylinder, so we have our ellipse there and our straight lines coming out. And then again, we have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers. Our 5th finger is down here. That's going to build out this way. Okay, so that is the structure that I want you to understand and think about when we build up top. All right, so let's go ahead and repeat that process up here. Again, I'm going to draw actual size, which means I don't want to trace, right? But I want to give myself some space to draw really big. Don't draw too small, okay? So I'm going to come in here and you're going to see me sort of test by putting my hand back on top, right? And I'm going to build in, testing, building in this overall shape. I want you to look at your hand while you're drawing. Okay, I don't want you to just copy what I'm doing. I want you to take the notes, but I want you to look at your hand and draw what you see. So if you've got a wider palm, some people have a really long, wide palm this way, or if your hand is really, really narrow, draw exactly what you see, right? My hands are super flat. Do you see that? Really flat. A lot of people have more meat here, right? Or more dimension, maybe it caves in a little bit more. Draw what you see. All right, I'm giving you the general sort of understanding and proportions of the hand. So there's our palm. We're going to draw 2 lines down for our arm, more or less, right? Right there. And then we want to build in this depth, right? So I have this. I'm going to copy and paste maybe about that much. Copy paste this line, extend it a little bit past, so that way you can get that angle roughly. Okay, and then this is sort of going to come down this way. Okay, so now let's get in our base of all of our fingers, right? They are cylinders, so they have a round base. When we see it from the side, we call it an ellipse. We're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4. So make sure that they're spaced out. And they're all in there. My pinky all the way over here is going to be a little bit smaller, right? Everything else is sort of the same width at the base. Maybe these 2 fingers are a little bit thicker, right? And then I want you to do one little bit of tracing. So I want you to get the heights correct. Put your palm on top, right? Stretch out your fingers and put little marks sort of at the end of where your fingers lie. Not your thumb, just your fingers. Okay, put that pencil down. I want you to hold your own hand. I want you to feel a little bit. We're going to talk anatomy. Like I said earlier, we need to construct, and artists will spend quality time really observing their subject. In this case, our subject is our hand. We're going to observe our subject, and we're going to feel through. And I want you to feel your bones. I want you to feel your tendons. Right, and your muscles and things like that inside, because it's going to inform you of how these structures work. All right, so you're going to notice that art and science and art and math are all very, 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 very connected. And here's an example of that. I need to understand this. Otherwise, if I forget I have bones, I'm going to have spaghetti fingers, right? So we need to discuss these bones. So feel. I want you to hold your own hand, and I want you to feel your knuckles. Let's do it this way. Feel your knuckles. I'm going to stress my hand out. Do you see these? I think they're called tendons, right? Do you see how they're converging right here, right? Feel them. Feel how it runs from your fingers all the way down. And this one's going to go straight back. But these are converging. Do you see it? I'm stressing my hand out so they'll peek up a little bit, right? Do you see them? They're all converging. Where are they converging? Into your wrist. Now, you may think that all these are just going to go straight back, right? But actually, they're converging very much right down in here, right? In a place that is called the carpal tunnel. So if I come in here, I'm going to draw a little box. Please do this with me. A little box, and inside that box, draw yourself a little circle. We're gonna think of this like a highway. So all of our tendons, all of our nerves are coming right into that section. And then they're fanning out to our fingers, and they're gonna connect all the way through. So I want you to draw some lines representing that, because that's gonna help us understand how our hand will fan out. A lot of people end up drawing hands like this, right, where their fingers are just sort of straight. But if we relax our hand, they're gonna fan out in different ways. When we close our hand, they're gonna converge. You see that? My fingers are converging in different ways, right? When we do different things, when we hold different objects, they're gonna do different things. So we need to understand what's happening inside to be able to get that correct. So again, all these tendons, nerves are all coming through the carpal tunnel, and then they're gonna fan out. And I want you to look at where you put those marks for your fingertips. That's sort of the angle at which you want to think about this, right? So here, 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 and here, right? We're building sort of like a little robot hand, aren't we? Give me 1 second. Okay. Little robot hand. All right, so let's start to build our fingers, and then we will talk about our thumb. Okay, so we know that our fingers are all cylinders, but I want you to notice how they taper. Okay, so they're gonna be thicker at the bottom, thinner at the top, right? Which one's your smallest finger? For me, for most people, it's my pinky, right? Which one's my longest finger? For me, for most people, it is your middle finger. Right, and you can see that is depicted here. When I stretch them open, these sort of feel very similar, but do you see that arch? Because it is longer, right? My pinky's considerably shorter than the rest of my fingers. It's weird when you look at that in isolation. It's like really an outlier there. I think people have a different, like sometimes they're longer or shorter, it depends. Can you though look at your pointer finger and your ring finger? Which one of those is longer for you? For me, it's my ring finger is a little bit longer than, or they're almost the same size, right? Depending on how I shift my hand. I want you to see which one is longer for you and make sure I see that in your picture. Okay. Now remember, they're cylinders. So I've got my oval down here, and I'm gonna put a thinner, smaller oval up top. And you can see I'm pushing harder on the top of that line, right? Because that's gonna be my fingertip. Now, before we draw in our fingers, I want you to notice one more detail that's going to help you construct your hand, and that's what's happening in between your fingers. Look at it. You might think you have like, perfect V right there, but you have a little bit of webbing there. Do you see that? A little bit of extra skin happening in between each finger. So look at the shape. It's sort of like a U, right? So before you do, sort of right up in here, give yourself not a V, don't do that. Give yourself a little bit of a softer U between your fingers. For me, my pinky is, if you look at it with me, it's like way wider. Okay, and then you should be able to connect the top and the sides of each finger. I'm going to turn my paper and start to build that in. Okay, so I'm just going to roughly throw it in, and then I'm going to make my adjustments. Roughly throw it in and make my adjustments. I'm not going to ask you to draw your fingernails right now. I just want you to get all of your fingers in the right spot. You can use your eraser on your pencil to pull up certain areas if something is looking a little narrow to you. Right? We're just getting the gist of what's happening. It almost looks like I traced it, but you saw me, I didn't. All right, let's go ahead and build in our thumb. So as we said in the beginning, we have this kind of square, right, for our palm, and then we have this sort of flat. If I take my hand over and stretch it out, and I'm gonna connect my pinky and my thumb, do you see how all of that comes over? It's like this whole like wing, right, of our hand. So go ahead and draw in that triangle shape. So it's going to be sort of coming off this line here, sort of this and sort of that a little bit. And if you think of it, it's going to connect sort of there, right, in thickness, and it gets narrow. Look at that, right? So this is going to kind of come there. And then I don't want you to draw your thumb as flat as everything else because it would be like really flat. I want you to, oops, shake it out and just gently let your hand fall. I know that's gonna make this look shorter, but let your hand fall. Notice what your thumb does. It's going to be here. That's our first knuckle, up to there. And then we have this and that, right? So it's going to be, I'm not tracing, I'm looking here. And then it's gonna sort of do that. Do you see what I see? 1, 2, sort of there. And then look at that roundness. We're gonna talk more about that in our next lesson. This roundness there, it's gonna come down a little bit, and then it's connecting to the rest of the hand. All right, so something like that. So this is the basic construction of the hand. We talked about the base when it's flat, which is going to be this squished down cube, right? A rectangular cube. We have cylindrical fingers, including our thumb, right? We've done a little bit more line work and observing right here with our thumb and that curve. But your next step, we're going to stop here with this, right? So sign the bottom, take a photo, and post it to Schoology so I can see that you're following along with me. The next step with this, though, would be to then add modified contour line. We would then add modified contour line. And contour line is where we're going with this, right? So our unit is called shape to form and contour line. So I could stay now here and I could live for the next 2 hours or more and really develop and see the details and notice like the curves and the wrinkles and the hair and the nails and all of that. But I don't want to do that here. I'm just talking about construction lines in this lesson. For our next lesson, we are going to tackle, let me grab it for you. We are going to tackle the bent finger. So take a look at that video if you're good with this one. At this point, please go ahead and take a photo of this and upload it over into Schoology. And I shall see you next time.